FBI thought I was the greatest informant on the planet Earth. They told me to record everywhere.
Al Jazeera's Investigative Unit takes you inside the shadowy world of FBI informants and counterterrorism operations. You will meet the criminals and con men spying on orders from the FBI.
I was for them, Al-Qaeda.
I am representing the Sheikh Osama bin Laden.
We will bring you the story of 3 informants posing as Muslims who encourage Americans to join plots concocted by the FBI. They are part of a post-9/11 mandate to thwart attacks before they even begin.
It literally boils down into, if you cannot find terrorists within the Muslim community, make terrorists, create the terrorist.
The FBI is not perfect in running its operations, but they're pretty damn close.
We will show how some informants are accused of violating civil liberties and why some Americans refuse to join the FBI's intelligence ranks.
I didn't want to be an informant for the FBI for the same reasons that I think that, the Muslim community should stand up to them. If I felt that there were actual terrorists running around in Toledo, I might feel differently about it.
For the first time, you will hear from a man convicted on terrorism charges who is now out of prison and back in his community.
There was never no bombs, there was never no weapons, there was never no maps, there was never no plans. It was just a bunch of hogwash.
Stay down, stay down.
An FBI informant has agreed to meet with me. I have tracked Elie Assad for nearly a decade while he was an undercover operative for the FBI. Assad is a violent criminal with a history of secretly recording his conversations. We are confident he will record us at this meeting, so to protect ourselves, we are making sure he is not the only one with a camera. Hey.
How you doing?
It's great to meet you finally.
Pleasure.
How are you? Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, have a seat.
Are you sure?
Assad thinks of himself as a secret agent. He assumes he's being followed and tries not to leave a trail. He calls me from blocked phone numbers and won't tell me where he's staying. So do you feel your life is potentially in danger because of these
Look,
things?
I have 6 attempts on my life.
By Al-Qaeda related affiliates?
By a lot of people.
Assad was being evasive. He was interested in talking, but he was wary about doing a formal interview.
The government lost up many cases. I go there to fix it. It's my job. Closer.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you'd be interested in doing a formal sit-down with...
About what?
Along the lines of what we're talking about here.
You will be honest, the way how you put the interview, yes.
Okay.
Try to fix it.
Great. Yeah, great meeting you finally.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Informants often need a cover story, a lie, something to explain why they're here in your community talking to you. In this investigation, we reveal the secrets of 3 informants, each with his own moniker, his own unique cover story. Elie Assad, aka The Closer, the man the FBI brought in to finish off a sting operation. Craig Monte, aka The Bodybuilder. His ruse was to get Muslim men out of the mosque and into the gym, where they would drop their guard. Darin Griffin, aka The Trainer, a former special ops soldier who offered to teach young Muslim men how to fire weapons. My interest in FBI informants began years ago in Miami. After 9/11, the U.S. government set about recruiting an intelligence army of thousands of informants, many of them in Muslim communities. While working as a reporter here, I first heard about an alleged Al-Qaeda cell that would be called the Liberty City 7.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Linda Wertheimer.
And I'm Steve Inskeep. Federal authorities have charged 7 people with conspiring with al-Qaeda to wage war against the United States.
The men were from a poor, mostly Haitian and African-American neighborhood in Miami, an odd place for al-Qaeda to recruit.
My first response was laughter. My name is Rory Mcmahon. I am a legal investigator in South Florida, and I worked on the Liberty City 7 case. The reason for my laughter was after this massive FBI raid, they searched their headquarters. The total take on what they recovered was a ceremonial sword. So that signaled to me that these people weren't much of a threat.
The operation began when the FBI received a tip about a suspicious group of men. Agents struggled to develop the case, so they turned it over to a seasoned hand, a professional informant, the closer.
I didn't work only for the FBI, I worked for different agencies. I work a lot of cases. I lost count. I don't know exactly, but there were a lot.
And you're good at what you do?
I'm good. I never lost a case.
The FBI surveilled the group, taking these photographs. Assad was ordered to get to know their leader, Narsil Batiste, a former Chicago street preacher who ran a construction business.
Time is 4:25 p.m.
This is the recording of one of the first meetings between Batiste and Assad. Assad posed as a member of al-Qaeda. Batiste said he wanted to join him in a plot, but the recorded conversation suggests his grip on reality was tenuous.
Chicago and New York is where they control the whole world. Satellite control Chicago has, you see, is high.
I heard it's the tallest building in the world.
Without that building, they can have no radio or satellite communications.
Assad ordered the group to take these surveillance photos of the FBI office in North Miami Beach. The men also took photos of the federal courthouse downtown using a camera Assad provided. That was the plot. A group of poor men in Miami with no real al-Qaeda connections and no bombs in their warehouse, casing government buildings and wanting to attack a skyscraper more than 2,000 kilometers away. Batiste and his 6 followers asked Assad to give them $50,000. The government alleged the money was to finance the attack. The Liberty City 7, desperate for cash, claimed they were just running a scam.
We just want to get money from this guy because we didn't believe he was a terrorist. My name's Rothschild J. Augustin, and I was in a group called Liberty City 7. You know, that's all our mind was on, the money. It's messed up. It was a stupid idea, you know how everything turned out, but that was our mind frame at the time.
As part of the operation, Assad agreed to deliver a new van to replace this aging pickup truck, filmed here by FBI agents following close by. Assad also offered to rent a larger warehouse for the group. Money was no object.
We can load a lot of things in. We can pull big trucks in here.
Okay, this is yours. I will do my best, no matter how much it will cost. No matter how much you want this, I will bring it to you as a story. Alhamdulillah.
Assad persuaded the men to come to the warehouse and pledge their allegiance to al-Qaeda.
I am representing the Sheikh Osama bin Laden.
The oath was the central piece of evidence in the case. Prosecutors would later allege that this demonstrated their commitment to the plot. The men repeated the pledge word for word.
To commit myself.
To commit myself.
Do you remember what the pledge was? Was it a real al-Qaeda pledge or something that the FBI came up with?
No, I guess it's, I don't know. I never saw one before. This is my first time. They gave me the paper and they said, you know what? Go ahead, read it. This is a pledge. And guys, you have to be in the middle and say your name.
Even on the cameras, when they were saying that audio, the camera, we were all looking at each other what the hell? And I kind of had my hand on the door, I'm ready to get the hell out. What were they talking about? He got us all this, so maybe we're going to get the money now. We could, skedaddle with the cash, but it didn't happen like that.
3 months after the oath, the FBI raided the small warehouse in Liberty City and arrested the 7 men. According to the government, a major plot was foiled.
These individuals wished to wage a quote, full ground war against the United States. That quote is from the investigation of these individuals who also allegedly stated the desire to, quote, kill all the devils we can.
In that press conference, he said that you guys were going to declare ground war on the United States.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. That's just retarded. I mean, you know, with 7 black men, how the hell are we going to stage ground war? They got tanks, they got bombs, they got missiles. I mean, what type of army are we? You know, there's 7 guys, broke dudes.
It took 3 trials to convict 5 of the 7 men. Augustine was sentenced to 7 years in prison for conspiracy to provide material support and resources to al-Qaeda. The only connection to al-Qaeda, the role played by Eli Assad.
It's got some articles on some of the different players. The closer, Eli Assad, or Tony Montana, as he liked to refer to himself. You know, he's been doing this for a long time.
Rory Mcmahon was hired by the defense to investigate Eli Assad. He pointed out that court testimony revealed Assad had failed an FBI polygraph exam while working on a previous case. That could have disqualified him from being an informant, but the FBI kept him on.
Eli Assad is a professional informant. He's the one that I'm talking about, that he knows how to game the system. He knows how to make a livelihood out of providing information to the government that the government wants to hear. Not necessarily truthful information. The truth is negotiable.
Again, what he does for a living, this guy?
Is that a private investigator?
You should, suggest for him to retire, because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
The Liberty City 7 case was the first historic one where it got a lot of national attention. They were able to ultimately succeed. So that emboldened them. Now they can manufacture cases and then announce to the world, we just saved you from this group.
Years after the sting in Miami, the closer would find himself behind bars as well. We will get to that later. Meanwhile, the FBI began to insert informants like Eli Assad in Muslim communities nationwide. Across the country in California, there was Craig Monte, the bodybuilder.
The FBI uses a method to turn a person to become an informant. That method is called MICE. It's an acronym. M stands for money. Using money to bribe them to become an informant. I use their ideology to turn them, meaning, in this case, it'd be religion. C, compromise, meaning some kind of information that makes that person vulnerable. E is ego. I wake up at around 4 o'clock. I walk over to the car, I put on Audio Slave. I play it as loud as I possibly can. There's a reason for that. The Audio Slave, Soundgarden, Ozzy Osbourne, Van Halen was to keep myself somewhat sane. Craig Monte almost didn't exist anymore.
Craig Monte is a human chameleon and a convicted con artist. He pretended to convert to Islam for the FBI in order to work the counterterrorism beat.
It had nothing to do with my country 'tis of thee. It had to do with I wanted to be in on the big game and to be paid top dollar for it. That's it.
Operation Flex was the code name for Monte's undercover assignment. As a personal trainer, he'd wear people down to get them to open up. He claims an FBI agent encouraged him to portray himself as extremely devout.
And he would say, okay, when you pray, when you take your right side of your head, and I want you to rub it on the carpet so there's a sore on your head. And do not put a Band-Aid on, let it bleed. Just don't even treat it, let it bleed. And the scab would break and I had blood sometimes here. That meant that I'm so devout that I don't care about my appearance. The more blood dripped on my robe, the more serious I was. And the more serious I was, the more people who gravitated toward me, they would be more of a person of interest. So there was a method to all of this madness that was going on.
Southern California is home to one of America's largest Muslim communities. Monte's assignment was to trawl the mosques, looking for anyone the FBI might be interested in.
I would have a conversation in the mosque with a group of Muslims. As we're talking about this conversation, this subject, I would have my recording device just right by the wall where we're talking. I get up, use the restroom, and start another conversation somewhere else with another device that was on. I maybe had about 4 of those on in the mosque at any given time.
This is considered a breeding ground for extremism.
This video from 2006 shows an FBI outreach meeting in Orange County. Members of the Muslim community were upset after a local paper quoted an FBI agent saying that Muslim students in the area were being monitored. Stephen Tidwell, then the FBI assistant director, tried to convince the community that it wasn't true.
Let me talk first about monitoring student organizations at the schools that we're in. We do not. We cannot. And we do not.
And I think that the Muslim community really was just getting the runaround from Stephen Tidwell. My name is Yasser Fazaga, and I'm the Imam at the Orange County Islamic Foundation in Mission Viejo. Here are the people who really came in earnest to really know what is going on, and Stephen Tidwell is avoiding answering the questions. So I got up, and I believe I had the paper on me that day, and I pointed to the quote and I said, Mr. Tidwell, one of your agents has made that statement and you are telling us differently.
You say that we're not being monitored. I read this article, I'm saying, well, you know, English is not my first language, but then the FBI appears to be actively studying Muslim student groups at UCI as part of an intense surveillance program to detect potential terrorists.
Mr. Fazaga had a reputation for speaking openly against the FBI.
It's in quotation, appears to be intense surveillance program. So for you, sir, to come and tell us that, oh, you're not being monitored, he's saying it, he's speaking for many people. We don't trust that.
And I remember he looked at me and he said, are you saying that I'm a liar?
You're calling me a liar?
And I said, I'm not calling anybody a liar, but I'm just saying that I have a direct quote, and I really don't know how to reconcile the quote with what you are telling us.
Stephen Tidwell, now working for a private security firm, declined Al Jazeera's request for an interview. Current FBI officials also refused to comment on surveillance programs in Orange County.
It was Mr. Fazaga who stood up and challenged Mr. Tidwell. The FBI does not take that lightly. So they had me get close to Mr. Fazaga to get into his inner circle.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. President Obama gave a speech this morning, and in the speech he was going to be addressing the NSA. You know, they've been going around spying on people, and by people here I mean Muslim people, because they were the target, mainly. So people were very disturbed. What in the world is going on? And we were told that we need to do this in order to stop terrorism. So the president gave a speech this morning, and people were really anticipating. People were anticipating that he was going to say something that is meaningful. But unfortunately, that was not the case. When I first met Craig, he was at our mosque. I introduced myself to him, and I made a comment about how physically fit he was. And he really was physically fit, something that I was personally struggling with. So he extended an invitation, maybe we can work out sometimes.
We never did, but we spoke a few times at length with other Muslim individuals around. So the FBI had several recordings of myself and Mr. Fazaga speaking about matters regarding the Quran and current events.
Allahu Akbar.
Operation Flex began to unravel when Monte's aggressive approach alarmed community members.
I started receiving reports saying that there's this gentleman who keeps asking these strange questions, and it's almost like in a pushy way, mainly about violence, about jihad. My name is Hussam Ailouche, and I'm the executive director of the Greater Los Angeles Area Office of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations.
After receiving numerous complaints, Ailouche called Stephen Tidwell. The FBI Assistant Director, Yasser Fazaga, challenged at the community meeting.
The minute I said, it's a convert, he's in Irvine, he said, oh, thank you, Hussam. That's great. I'm glad you reported that. We'll take care of it from now on. I said, Steve, I haven't even given you the name. And I could only imagine what's in his mind at that moment, that the same informant we've sent to entrap Muslims is being reported by these same Muslims that we suspected.
At that point, Mr. Ailouche alerted some people from the mosque, and that began to place me in a compromised position where certain Muslims didn't trust me anymore because they thought I might be working with the FBI.
The bodybuilder's cover was blown. Frustrated by the FBI's handling of the case, he switched sides. Monte agreed to partner with Fazaga in a lawsuit against the FBI. The legal complaint alleged the FBI violated the constitutional rights of Southern California Muslims.
The informant program that's so vast in the Muslim community today, it is like East Germany of the Cold War and Cuba, where people are on the street corner spying on neighbors and family members, and it just multiplies. It's actually completely just out of control.
But the lawsuit was killed by the U.S. Attorney General, Eric Holder. The government argued that allowing it to move forward would reveal state secrets and significantly harm national security. The Justice Department declined Al Jazeera's request for an interview, stating there was no upside to discussing the issue. Operation Flex has undermined the relationship between federal law enforcement and the Muslim community in Southern California.
I feel very betrayed personally because I was one of the most vocal proponents of strengthening a relationship with the FBI. We expect that the FBI is there to protect us, protect our community from criminals, not to go and hire criminals to actually come into our mosques and put our youth at risk.
You can't really trust the FBI anymore. I mean, period. You cannot trust the FBI anymore. In my own sermons, I would tell our community members to please cooperate with the law. However, when it comes to the FBI, the less you talk, the more you walk.
Toledo, Ohio has one of the oldest Muslim communities in the United States. Immigrants from Syria and Lebanon settled here more than 100 years ago. Like Miami in Southern California, Toledo has its own story of an FBI informant. Darin Griffin grew up in Toledo and joined the U.S. Army. Court testimony would later reveal that after he left the military, his life began to spiral out of control.
He started abusing drugs and alcohol, became involved in drug dealing activity. My name is Edward Bryan. I'm an assistant federal public defender for the Northern District of Ohio. He came to know drug enforcement agents when they busted him for drug-related activity and began working as a drug informant in Northwest Ohio.
While working for the DEA, Griffin turned in other drug dealers. He continued to use and sell drugs while being paid by the government, $800 per week, cash. In 2002, he walked into this Toledo mosque posing as a convert. Ziad Abu Hummus was among those who welcomed him.
It wasn't on a Friday. They opened doors for him. They felt he needs a helping hand. And we felt he was doing this for good faith.
To the Muslim community, he was Bilal, meaning chosen one. But to the FBI, he was the trainer.
It's basically my responsibility for the training. So, you're my brother, so I'm going to protect you with every knowledge and every bone in my body. And so.
His cover story? A disaffected veteran trying to make amends for misdeeds in Iraq. Griffin set his sights on this man, Mohammed Omalley.
Mohammed Omalley, he was a regular person who comes to the mosque. He used to question the imam of certain things. He's not mature. To see him fall down like this, it's a shock. It's a shock.
Was he a terrorist?
I don't think he's a terrorist. I think he's everything but a terrorist.
Test, one.
Griffin tried to develop a close relationship with Omalley and often came to his apartment.
Is your phone on? I called like a couple times.
Omalley was angry about the war in Iraq. He and Griffin spent hours watching violent videos and debating U.S. foreign policy in chat rooms.
He would express his opinion, and he would say whatever in his mind. My name is Amr Omalley. I am Mohammed Omalley's brother, and he's serving 20 years in prison because of an FBI informant. He would be sitting in my brother's room, viewing videos of the Iraqis. When they do IEDs videos, they spend hours in that room.
The FBI watched closely, trying to determine whether Omalley's interest in wartime videos and his talk of violence against U.S. troops in Iraq would result in action.
He didn't feel sorry for the U.S. soldiers dying there. There's no denying. They came from many miles to invade another country, and they're dying there. Why would I feel bad for them?
The whole focus was to verify whether it was more than just talk. My name is Ted Waskey. I'm the former special agent in charge of the FBI in Northern Ohio. I wish I could go kill American soldiers. Was that a offhanded comment, or was he really serious?
The FBI sting on Mohammed Omalley involved two plots that Griffin relentlessly pushed forward. The first was getting Omalley to take laptops to Jordan while visiting family, and then smuggling them across the border to Syria or Iraq.
Did you find any contacts over in Iraq?
The brother I told you about, his brother, he knows some brothers in
Ask him if they need any laptops, because that's how the brothers are communicating. Email. I have some cheap laptops, but they should be used out of the country.
What's your first and last name?
Darin Griffin.
What caliber is it?
357. It's a Desert Eagle.
The second involved training Omalley to use firearms, bombs, and combat tactics. The trainer took Omalley and one of his friends to Cleland's Outdoor World, a small gun range west of Toledo. Omalley claimed it was his first time firing a weapon.
Is this plastic? Plastic? No, aluminum. These are brass.
The often unemployed Omalley relied on Griffin for financial support. He was so broke that Griffin and the FBI gave him $850 to pay his rent.
That was the first of many financial favors that the government, through Darin Griffin, used with Mohammed Omalley, basically to keep him interested and to keep him talking.
In the summer of 2005, Omalley and Griffin traveled to Jordan to visit Omalley's family. The whole trip on the government's dime. Griffin brought 5 laptops with him.
Griffin locked all his laptops to, with chains and hooked him up to the pipes and stuff like that. So it was really awkward to my dad. And when my brother came in, and he was like, do you have doubts that, this guy's, an agent or working with the government? He said, it doesn't matter if I do or not. I mean, I'm not doing anything wrong.
It's extraordinary to me that your brother
knew he was recording, felt strongly was an FBI informant, but continued to kind of spend time with him? I mean, it strikes me as kind of playing with fire, doesn't it?
Exactly, that's what he was doing, and that's always, he had fights with my mom and my family. But in his opinion, he didn't do anything wrong.
Late one evening, Griffin called his FBI handler back in Ohio. They used the code word serial to refer to a Syrian man Omalley claimed to have met over the internet.
Do you know when you're going to hear about the serial?
No, I'm trying to find that out now. When it comes back down, it was a long night. We didn't sleep at all last night. I had to wrestle the strongest guy in Urbit last night. So. Yeah.
Are you okay?
I didn't get played for no punk.
You are my new hero.
Yeah, I'm a lot of people's new hero now, bro.
In Jordan, Griffin and Omalley behaved like tourists, even enjoying a leisurely boat ride. Griffin also gave Omalley a satellite phone to use, and he ran up more than $40,000 in charges calling friends and family. In February 2006, the U.S. government indicted Omalley and flew him back to Ohio. He was convicted of trying to kill or maim people outside the United States. He received a sentence of 20 years in prison. Can you say whether Mr. Omalley or Mr. Griffin ever met with terrorists while they were in Jordan or the Middle East?
I do not have any personal information whether they met with terrorists or not.
And at trial, no evidence was provided to suggest they met with terrorists, is that right?
No, there was not.
Griffin was paid more than $350,000 for his work on the case. He now claims to work as an intelligence analyst for a U.S. military contractor. He refused to meet with us in person, so we reached him on his phone in Afghanistan. I've been exchanging messages through letters with Mohammed Omalley. What he describes is that you knew he wasn't connected to any kind of terrorist organization. Do you disagree with what he said, that you knew he wasn't a dangerous guy?
He is dangerous, you know. Would he have strapped a bomb to himself and went and blown himself up? No, because I don't think he has that kind of intestinal fortitude. But to get a sniper rifle or to use a remote detonation, I know he would do for sure.
Was he actually in touch with any people that you really could consider to be terrorists?
I think some of that stuff is still classified, so I'm sure I can't talk about it.
How long did you work with the FBI?
No comment.
What kind of impact do you think your work as an FBI informant had on Toledo's Muslim community?
Brought some things to light.
Did it bring to light that there were terrorists in Toledo?
I don't know. I guess that's for people to decide.
What do you think? You worked the case.
Yeah, my opinion doesn't matter.
Do you think Mohammed Omalley would have moved forward in any kind of terrorism plot were it not for Darin Griffin being introduced to him?
I can answer whether he definitely would have carried it out. Thankfully, no one will ever know.
Good evening and a warm welcome to you all on this rather rainy night.
So your brother is essentially a convicted terrorist. How does that make you feel?
Well, he's my brother. I mean, I don't see him as a terrorist. You know, I never thought of him like that. So I know he was, to me personally, he was framed. And without Griffin, there would be no case. I want to make sure that nobody falls in the same situation that we did, like my brother did. At least let the people know that many of these cases wouldn't happen if it were not for the informant themselves.
Hey,
Hi, how you doing?
Good. After the Liberty City 7 case in Miami, Eli Assad, the closer, came to El Paso, Texas, where he started a modeling agency on the Mexican border.
You know, sometimes when you've been undercover in a case for a long time, it takes you time to, even after you finish the case, it takes you time to get rid of that personality you had.
Do you always shake it off? I mean, can you always shake it off?
Technically, every undercover, they had, after each case, they have to do psychological value. Guess how many times I had for 14 years? How many times they check?
How many?
None. Memory. Trevor, is this street down there?
Assad is referring to March 2011, when he led police in a high-speed car chase that ended near the University of Texas at El Paso. Al Jazeera obtained video from that night. During the chase, he hit one officer with his car. The officer then fired at Assad's fleeing vehicle. He flipped his car over and later pleaded guilty to evading arrest and driving while intoxicated.
And you drink what?
Black Label. Johnny Walker Black Label.
Johnny Walker Black Label, okay. On the rocks?
No, straight up.
Straight up, okay.
Yes, I've been drinking this for 20 years.
You were involved in a high-speed chase here in El Paso, actually. It ended around the corner.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what happened?
Trevor, I cannot speak too much about this case because they're still under investigation.
So you think it's their fault, not your fault?
My fault of running from the cop, but their fault to put my life in danger.
You don't think it's the other way around?
You spent about a year in lockup?
About a year, yeah. You can say that.
Assad built up a long rap sheet while working as an informant. In 2001, he was arrested for physically assaulting his then pregnant girlfriend. The charges were dropped. In 2012, police arrested him for attacking a different woman, his wife, Gracia Jill. I want to read from you a police report and get your response to it. She headed into the restroom, and Eli Assad went in and punched her on the nose. Jill stated that was why the restroom was full of blood. Jill stated that Assad grabbed her and shoved her in the bedroom, then displayed an 8-inch knife and threatened to kill her if she left him and made a stabbing motion into the bedroom wall. Jill stated that Assad then left the room, and she then grabbed the children and ran out of the residence to get help, fearing for her life and the lives of her children.
Did you see the report?
I did.
You see the report signed by her? Did you see the report signed?
I saw this report and you pleaded guilty to the charge. The charge? Assault causing bodily injury to a family member.
This is me, and let me tell you something, Trevor. I'm not a perfect guy. I'm human. I do make mistakes in my life. But one thing in my personal life, I messed up. You can't say that. But in my work life, I didn't.
Assad's work life sent Rothschild Augustin to federal prison for 7 years. He says he spent almost 2 of those years in solitary confinement.
It's like you're kind of dead. You know, the people outside in the world or whatever, like you just dead. You can't do anything for yourself. Like you just feel alone. And nobody understands your suffering, pain, you know, like only people who's locked up with you, they understand. Other people don't, you know, they don't understand. Right now we're on 62nd Northwest 15th Avenue, where we used to be in the warehouse, all of us.
So this is the first time you've been back since the arrest, since the trial, since
since everything, yeah. Yeah, it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling being back here.
How has your life changed?
I kind of tend to be by myself. I don't really try to, you know, I guess talk to people or try to see what's going on with them or what they're trying to do with their life and things of that nature. Or
what happens now?
What happens now? Well, you know, now it's just basically, you know, I guess it's some type of form of a normal life, and you just trying to live out the American dream, you know, just make it.
Shut up. Augustin now shares a small apartment with his stepfather in North Miami. He sleeps in the living room. He's looking for work after losing his job at a factory.
Hello? So you want me to go over there?
Augustin doesn't blame anyone else for what has happened. Not the FBI, not the Justice Department, and not the informant who put him away.
I'm angry more of like, you know, I guess, myself, not get myself out the situation sooner than I did. My only issue with the government is, like, look for who you're really looking for. Make sure they're really, you know, what you try to make them to be. Real justice, instead of relying on, you know, informants and all this type of craziness. Follow your own rules. Like, don't bend and break your rules just, you know, try to catch the bad guy and, you know, you end up, you really being crooked as the people you're chasing.
Peter Ahern chased suspects for the FBI for 30 years. He believes that informant-led sting operations are an essential counterterrorism tool.
Probably the one that had most of the questions was the Liberty 7, and looking into that, there was definitely predication to do something. Whether or not you believe that they were just playing a game here and trying to steal the money, who knows? But again, it wasn't just, let's just go take a run at them and see if they say yes.
One of the criticisms is that the FBI, through these sting operations, isn't really finding the truly dangerous guy, the guy who has a bomb, who has connections to Al-Qaeda. They're finding these low-hanging fruit that are kind of vulnerable, easily manipulated.
What if, on a bad day, they decided, yeah, I've had enough of this, and really, you know, became to that point that I'm going to do something about it? You have information that's coming. Do you think the FBI should ignore it? I mean, should they? No.
The FBI turned down Al Jazeera's repeated request to interview a current official for this investigation. Ahern believes that pursuing informants is at the core of being a special agent.
I would always tell agents, don't ever close a case. You know, a lot of times you close a case that's just not going anywhere. You know, it's a dog case, you don't have it, the U.S. Attorney's Office is declining on the prosecution. But I used to say, don't ever close a case without going out and knocking on somebody's door, because you might be able to turn them into a source.
Back in Toledo, where Darin Griffin posed as the trainer, the FBI continues to knock on doors. Behind some, they find resistance, a refusal to be part of a vast intelligence network.
I don't think that being an informant actually does a service to the community. My name is Mustafa Hasib al-Nabi, and I've been in Toledo for about 12 years, and I was recently approached by the FBI to be an informant for them.
Mustafa Hasib al-Nabi discovered he was on the FBI's radar when he took his car into a Walmart to repair the hood latch. He looked underneath and found this GPS tracking device.
Apparently, they don't always attach this extra battery pack, but for whatever reason, they felt that this was going to stay under my car for a long time. So yeah, actually these 4 batteries go in here, came out of there, and since this is the transmitter, I tend not to put them back in.
Until a recent Supreme Court ruling, federal law enforcement could place tracking devices on vehicles without obtaining a warrant.
I tried to look for any markings that were on it. I couldn't really find anything.
And you believe it was a tracking device from the FBI?
I do. I mean, I took it apart. It's got an antenna for the GPS tracking device, and it also has some cell phone equipment on the inside through Verizon. I believe that the way it works is it constantly tracks where you are and is constantly sending information back to the FBI.
Hasib al-Nabi took the device to a lawyer. Nothing happened immediately. A couple of years later, FBI agents knocked on his door. He didn't open it.
I was told that they were interested in speaking to me. 50% of it was they had specific questions for me, and the other 50% was they were interested in relationship building. I spoke to my lawyer about what relationship building meant exactly, and we agreed that they are looking for an informant. I don't know what they look for when they recruit informants, But it seems that to them, everyone in the Muslim community is one of two things: a potential informant or a potential terrorist.
After the visit from the FBI, Hazib al-Nabi suddenly had a new friend. This man, Mohammed Rashid. He approached Hazib al-Nabi at a religious gathering.
I took a step back. I didn't want to even shake his hand. And he asked me what's wrong. And I told him, I don't want to talk to you.
It seems like it's an open secret in Toledo that Mohammed Rashid is a FBI informant.
If you were to ask pretty much anybody in town, what do you think of Mohammed Rashid? I think you pretty much get the same answer. At the very least, people don't trust him. And I think the vast majority of people know that he's an informant. But I think his presence is tolerated just because people don't want to upset anyone. So he walks around Toledo, he goes into our mosques, he, talks to people, he pretends like nothing's happened, that he's just a regular person.
Rashid tried to develop a relationship with Mohammed Omalley during the FBI sting involving Darin Griffin. A defense lawyer confirmed to Al Jazeera that Rashid worked as an FBI informant in a separate Toledo case.
Hi, Mohammed Rashid.
Yeah.
I'm a reporter with Al Jazeera. My name is Trevor Aronson.
What's up?
And we're doing a story about informants in Muslim communities for the FBI. And we're hoping to interview you about your work as an FBI informant.
No kidding.
How long have you been working for the FBI?
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't tell you.
A lot of informants are coerced to work with the FBI. I mean, can you say whether you were coerced in any way, or did you volunteer?
I can't give you any comments about this as we speak right now. I can't confirm. I can't deny. I'm not telling you anything about the FBI.
Right. Okay.
The FBI has more than 15,000 informants, many of them spying on U.S. Muslim communities. Like the closer, the bodybuilder, and the trainer, these spies lurk in the dark corners of America's justice system. Neighbor informing on neighbor, one American luring another, a nation spying on itself on orders from the FBI.